Welcome to our webinar today on funding care by Seniorcare by Lottie. I'm Robin and I'm joined by Eva today. We'll do introductions right now, actually. Yeah, I'm Robin. I'm the content lead at Senior Care by Lottie. I'm charged to do all these little content bits. I do a lot of hosting, like I will be doing today, and I am charged with the excellent job of helping, inform people with the really digestible content, because care is needlessly complicated at the best of times. It's really great, and luckily, I'm joined by Eva Taylor-Jones, who is one of the greatest care experts ever, in my humble opinion.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Eva, and give a bit of chat, but you know.
Well, yeah, that's a very nice intro. But yeah, I'm Eva. I'm one of the care experts. I've been in the kind of care sector for 10 years, since I was 19. So I have a lot of expertise working as a carer, working in social services, being a care expert. So yeah, I kind of help families, all day, every day, support them with their kind of care questions, help them find the right care home, the right home care solution, talk them through funding, dementia support, anything that anybody would need. I am an expert in, I guess, a care expert.
Yes, you are, and it's an extensive list, isn't it? It's not just one thing, as we both know. Care is a multitude of potential problems, issues, and like queries along the way. So, yeah, that you're in safe hands today with Eva. Not necessarily me, but with Eva, you're in safe hands. And if you didn't know, in case you're unaware, we're Senior Care. So we're partnered with your organizations to help, all employees better understand, find, and fund care for their loved ones. And like we just alluded to, that can come in many forms. But with our in-house care expert team, you can literally log on to your own senior care portal for free and chat with us for free and get that expert advice for free, which is really nice. So yeah, that's who we are in a nutshell. What are we going to be talking about today? This is like one of the hotter topics, I'd say, in all of care is care funding itself. So we're going to be talking through the average price of care. That's a good place to start. How much does care actually cost? We'll reveal the eye-watering sums coming up. And then we're going to be talking through benefits and assessments. How can we give you some relief and what kind of directions we can point you in to give you some sort of like payments per week, perhaps, on those really expensive care fees. And then financing and thinking ahead, which I think not enough of us do ever in life. And I feel like that's a really important factor. And then, yes, we've got space at the end for Q&A. You can write a question at any time in the Q&A box. So, don't hesitate to go ahead and do that. But yeah, in the meantime, we'll cross all that and we'll get to it at the end and leave enough time for questions. But yeah, let's get on with it. The average price of care. So we're going to begin. So get that Q&A box ready, and you're going to answer us a question. So the question is, what percentage of care seekers rely on personal savings to help fund care for a loved one? Is it A, 10%, B, 33%, C, 65%, or D, 90%? So, write in the Q&A now what you think it is. And half the time we've got a countdown clock. I'm sure you might be familiar with.
Fiona's gone for 90.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
only did the countdown clock for 15 seconds, don't worry. We're not doing the whole 30. Just like sort of hear the music in your head,
Lots of
hearing it.
B's, lots of C's.
It was C, 65%. So anyone that got that, congratulations. And also, it's quite a sobering sum that people are paying 65%, like 65% of people are paying out of their own personal savings for care, which is,
Mhm.
I think Eva would agree, that is extraordinary.
Mhm.
Um, Social care is exceedingly difficult and it's harder when you're having to pay a lot of that care yourself. And we want, that's kind of why we're here. We're here to try and give you as much relief as possible on that care funding side and point you in the right direction so that if there is a viable opportunity to save money, we're here to do that. Um, and Eva, kick us off with probably the best start to care funding,
Mhm.
on private funders versus local authority. And, and all these different areas, it's different for some reason. They like to make it complicated. So start with that, I think.
Yeah, so obviously, well, in terms of funding care, there's kind of three different avenues. We're going to go into kind of all of them today. So you've got people who pay privately, and people who pay are paid for by the local authority. And depending on where you are in the UK, depends on kind of whether you're a private funder or local authority funded. So in England, the threshold for paying privately is anyone who's got over £23,250 in savings. And yeah, if they have less than that, they are entitled to local authority funded support. Um, this is exactly the same in Northern Ireland. We have a lot of Northern Irish care seekers that we support through Seniorcare. So yeah, England and Northern Ireland are the same. Scotland, the threshold is 23,750. Yeah, anything more than that, you are a kind of a private funder. In Scotland, there is a free personal and nursing care kind of government benefit scheme that yeah, all kind of care recipients are kind of entitled to apply for. But if you are from Scotland and need that kind of help, we can help you access that for home care and care homes. And then in Wales, I feel like we should all move to Wales
Yeah.
because the threshold is £50,000. So again, anything more than that, you're a private funder. Anything less than that, you are funded by social services. Um,
And it's probably important to note here, Eva, as well, that's slightly different if you're looking for home care, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is kind of just an overview.
Yeah.
If you're, we'll go into this in a minute because there is a section on kind of home care. Um, this is savings. Obviously, if you're going into a care home full time, they take in assets and savings into account. But if you obviously are living at home, and you own your own property and you want care at home, they wouldn't take someone's house into consideration because you need to live there to be able to get the care. So, um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. And what about top-up fees? I know people often talk about them as third-party top-ups, but I feel
yes.
like this is something that people utilize a lot.
Yeah, so for example, we've got Maggie here as an example. If you're living in England, um, or anywhere really, the local authority will assess your loved one. So in this instance, Maggie's living in England. She's got less than 23,250 in savings. She's had a care needs assessment and a financial assessment by her local authority, and they have given her a monthly fee that they are willing to pay based on her care needs. However, the care homes that she's looking at and her family are looking at within that social services funded budget is not quite what they're looking for, and they want to look at other homes that are slightly more expensive. This is where third party top ups come in. Um, if you can, that's great. I know it's not always doable for everybody to pay for their family's care. Going back to the kind of 65%
Yeah.
of people using their personal savings, but there is an option to top up the rest. So, for example, if a care home was 1,100 a week and social services are only going to put £1,000 in towards Maggie's care or loved one's care, there is an option for that £100 a week to be topped up by friends or family.
Yeah. And
Um,
and you do see that happen quite often, don't you? Just
yes,
it
yeah,
might be a better location or like the
yeah,
facilities might be better. There's lots of different reasons why
yeah.
someone might do that. But yeah, that gives you a good insight. Thanks, Eva.
No worries.
So, benefits and assessments, and this is the real meat of the sort of webinar. I guess we start at the very like beginning. It's a good place to start. And talk about, that sort of care needs assessment and
Yeah.
financial assessment that people will have to do. And I guess just walk us through that. I mean, there's probably so much else to talk about in this section, but start with the basics, I think.
Yeah, so if you're looking at care for a loved one, you're unsure kind of where to begin. You don't know what level of care your loved one needs. You don't know how they're going to fund the care. You can organise a care needs and financial assessment either by contacting the GP. They will kind of signpost you to local authority, or local authority. They will essentially assign a social worker. And they will come to the house or wherever your loved one is, whether that's in hospital or in a care home, and they will assess their needs. So things like mobility, what they're struggling with mobility, their cognitive ability, whether they're living with dementia or yeah, any other cognitive impairment, food and fluid intake, weight, any medications, etc. And they will kind of form what they feel is best for your loved one. And then they will also conduct a financial assessment as well. Financial assessments are means tested. So, again, going back to the thresholds, whether you're in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, depends on, yeah, whether you're a private funder or being funded by local authority. And they will kind of look into your loved one's savings, assets, pension, etc., and come up with a care needs plan and then also a financial plan.
And
So
we've had a couple of questions just to divert about pension pots, and I'm not sure if you know this off the
yeah,
top of your head, but do they take that into account when they do a financial assessment?
yes, they do.
Yeah.
They take anything, everything that someone has in their name
Yeah.
into consideration,
Right.
not with home care, but with care home. If you stay at home, and you're wanting care to be at home, again, you need somewhere to live. So they would only take
But
kind
they
of,
don't take your house into consideration for home care.
no, no,
Yeah.
not for home care.
But for anyone asking, yes, they will take pension and
Yes,
pension pots into
everything
account.
that's in your name, pension, savings, etc.
Cool. That's really good to know. Thanks, Eva. And then government benefits. I feel like we talk about this like quite a lot, but there's a lot of billions of pounds that go unclaimed every year. And this is just England and Wales. I can't talk for the exact number when it comes to, Scotland and Northern Ireland, but I assume it's still kind of high. But
Hmm.
it'd be good to talk through some of the government benefits that people are probably entitled to, but might not know about, and go from there.
Yeah, so with benefits going unclaimed, a lot of people don't actually know that they are, say, an unpaid carer and they're doing a lot of care responsibilities, but they could be entitled to carers allowance or carers credit. So they're kind of, yeah, two carers benefits that are there to support you, or someone in your circle financially to help look after a loved one. We've got attendance allowance, which is kind of the name for the non-means tested benefit for anyone over 66 who requires some form of kind of care and support. Yeah, this is called pension age disability benefit in Scotland. And the higher rate, which someone could be entitled to, is £110 a week, non-means tested. So if you know anyone in your family or circle that you're not sure whether is claiming this, have a look at this. We can help you access that. We've got guides on how to apply for all of these benefits. Things like blue badges.
Sorry.
Carry
And
on.
non-means tested means like
Yes.
it's not tested against your financial
Yes,
asset.
not tested against your finances. You could have 5 million in the bank and you can
Yeah.
still get attendance allowance.
Oh,
Um,
that's nice.
and it's there to be used for, if you were struggling with household tasks
Yeah.
or you needed, yes, to pay someone to come in on a weekly basis for a cup of tea and a companionship, etc., or full
Mm.
care. And that's for care home and home care. Things like, yeah, as I mentioned, blue badge. You might not know that you're entitled to a blue badge, but if you, say, for example, had a fall 2 years ago and you're struggling with mobility and your daughter takes you to a cafe every week or the supermarket and you're having to walk from one end of the car park to the front door, you should be applying for a blue badge for yourself. Um, yeah, to use for those journeys. And things like council tax reduction. If you're living alone or you're an elderly person, you can get this massively reduced. Um, and then PIP, this is again a non-means tested benefit, but this is for anyone under state pension age, whereas pension age disability and attendance allowance is for anyone kind of over 66. And these are just a few of the
Yeah.
benefits that kind of go unclaimed or people don't know that they're entitled to. Um, yeah, we
Yeah.
have lots of information about all of these benefits and
Yeah, and again, we could probably speak for hours, if not days, probably going into each
yeah.
one and the kind of assessments they require. I think a lot of people get put off, don't they, by the size of the,
Hmm.
forms they have to fill out. And it can be a really painful experience. So any way in which we can help, we're
Yeah.
more than willing to guide you through it because it's super important getting this money back. And, we don't want to leave any of that money on the table, really. We want to be using it. So those are the government benefits. And now we're going to talk a bit about NHS benefits because they're slightly different and not
Hmm.
provided through the government necessarily, but it'd be really good to go through each one and what people might or might not be entitled to.
Yeah, so the NHS, as I mentioned kind of at the beginning of the call, you have kind of three types of care funding: local authority and private funders, which is kind of what we discussed. But the NHS also fund care as well. Um, so there's kind of three different types. Continuing healthcare is all of these, sorry, continuing healthcare and funded nursing care have to be pay for nursing care. So someone needs to be receiving nursing care in a care home or at home to be able to receive these benefits. So if someone has got um, like daily insulin injections, bed sores that are need dressing, any other wound dressings, stoma care, kind of catheter care, and this is where the nursing funding comes into play. So continuing healthcare is fully funded care. It can be quite hard to access, but yeah, it's for someone who's got kind of ongoing complex care needs, and needs their care to be funded by the NHS because nurses are supporting them, as well as kind of carers. And this is for care homes and home care. Funded nursing care is specifically for a care home. So if you are living in a care home with nursing needs and you apply for continuing healthcare, again, like I said, it's hard to sometimes get that because a lot of people are trying to get awarded continuing healthcare. You may get awarded funded nursing care, which is part funded. So it's either £254 a week toward your care to pay for the nursing element, or £350. So there's a higher rate and a lower rate there. And this kind of, yeah, pays for the nursing element. And then you've got NHS reablement care. So if you had a loved one who'd recently been in hospital and they'd had a stroke or a fall and, you know, is not sick enough to be in the hospital still, but still needs support, your loved one could get up to 6 weeks of care, either in a care home setting, a rehabilitation setting, or at home, and they could get up to 6 weeks for free, paid for by the NHS. Um,
Right. Thanks, Eva, and thank you for all your questions coming in. I know you've got loads of questions, which is great to see about all these different like elements and how they sort of interact. I guess the main difference between continuing healthcare and funded nursing care is that just like how complex the needs might be, Eva? What's the
Sorry, what
main?
was that? I was reading one of the questions on funded nursing care and
Oh no,
CHC.
you go for that. What was the question?
Yeah, I was just going to say the anonymous attendee, sorry, we'll do these at the end, but does dementia cover? It does if it's complex, if they've got kind of challenging behaviours, if they display sexual behaviours or yeah, they're kind of sectioned. Um, yeah, so not all dementia, but dementia that's very advanced that requires nurse intervention. Sometimes, yeah, so that's just to answer one question, but then we'll answer kind of the others
Yeah,
at the end.
we will come back. Just
Yeah, we will come
don't
back.
worry, we will come back. Because it's a very, it's a very, there's so many questions to ask in all this, and like we are only presenting sort of like the surface level of it. So
Mhm.
please do keep asking. We will come back. We'll leave plenty of time. Winter support as well, and I know this sort of it varies depending on where you are, England, Scotland, wherever.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to go through a few of these just because it's a lot of them are based on location as well.
Yeah, so obviously these are needed in the cold months, aren't they? Especially if
Mm.
you're like elderly and vulnerable. But winter fuel payment is very similar to winter heating payment in Scotland. So again, they're very similar, like attendance allowance and pension age disability. Um, so yeah, you don't need to claim for winter fuel payment. It's just automatically put in your bank account. This is either in kind of November or December, and you qualify if you're over state pension age, and it's to keep kind of the elderly warm and vulnerable warm in winter because obviously it's yeah, they need to be warm and safe at home. So again, this is very similar to the winter heating payment in Scotland. Then you've kind of got the cold weather payment. So yeah, you get £25 for every 7 days of the forecast being 0 degrees or colder. And to qualify for this, you have to be on pension credit, income support, job seekers, universal credit. Um, yeah, so any of those you would be entitled to. And then you've got the warm home discount. So this is a one-off payment of £150. And it's a reduction in electricity bills. So low income, vulnerable families in Great Britain, so England, Wales, and Scotland um, are entitled to this. So yeah, some of these you may be aware of, you may have heard them on the news or wherever, but some of you may not be aware of. So we just wanted to kind of highlight that, especially as we're in the cold months.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you, Eva. That's really useful. And adapting the home, I think this is something we always come back to. Like, care isn't always about, you know, moving to a facility like a care home 24/7. And it's not always about having a carer to come visit you at home, but it's sometimes just helping you live more independently at home. So, yeah, I mean, anything you can tell us about adapting the home and, the rules behind that would be great.
yeah, absolutely. So the rule is everyone is entitled up to £1,000 of kind of home adaptations. As you can imagine, a lot of people are trying to access a home adaptations assessment. So again, like the care needs and financial assessment, social services can come to the home and assess the home and see what's needed. A lot of people are wanting that uh, support at home. So there is long waiting lists. So yeah, everyone is kind of entitled to £1,000, but a lot of people end up paying privately so that they're able to get things like grab rails and like alarm pendants, things like that to help kind of your loved one get around the home. Anything kind of over £1,000 is means tested. So, if you are a wheelchair user and want to adapt your kitchen to be lower, so you're able to cook in your kitchen or a wet room in your bathroom. Obviously, these are very expensive things to get done, and these would be assessed by um, a means tested, so tested on your finances. Obviously, you don't have to go through social services. You can pay for these yourself. Um, So yeah, but adapting the home is really important. I speak about home adaptations a lot, and kind of depict what somebody might need, whether that's a ring doorbell because they're getting they live far away from their gran and they want to see when carers are coming in, or grab rails up the stairs, or finding them an accessible bathtub seat that moves in and out of the bath. We can get specific about what you're looking for, or kind of give a roundabout information about home adaptations.
And would you, because there is a long waiting list, like you said, and it takes
Yeah,
quite a long time, would you recommend people start thinking about it sooner? I mean, you could say that for anything,
yeah,
sooner rather than later,
yeah,
just so that people at least have a head start. And also, I think there's a fact that if you've already had things fitted, you can't retroactively get £1,000, can
yeah.
you?
No, you can't. If you pay for them and get them fitted, you wouldn't be able to then go back to social services and say, I've had this much work done on my house. Can you
Mm.
pay me back?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it would be kind of them having to assess. So we do encourage people if they can afford it to, and they're wanting that equipment, they want it, yeah, that equipment and things in the house quickly. And but social services are there and can support. It just might take a little while. Um, yeah.
yeah, definitely. Thanks, Eva. And that's exactly what we're here to sort of guide you on at Senior Care. Like, wonderful people like Eva are there to sort of point you in the right direction and say, well, there's this assessment, this benefit, and then also adapting the home. So it's a like a bunch of different things. It's an array of different things. And that's exactly because there is so much that is accessible, but sometimes it can be finer print, hard to decode, that sort of stuff. So that's exactly why we're here. And to tail off this section, what are your top tips for funding care?
Yeah, so I think we kind of mentioned the first one about if your loved one owns a property, you don't have to sell their home to pay for care. We obviously with home care, no. Um, with home care, yeah, it's different. Obviously, you're staying at home, you need somewhere to live. But with care homes, yes, they would expect you to. Say if you own the home and you live alone and you have below the private funded threshold, there's two kind of avenues that you can go down with getting kind of your loved one into a care home, and kind of paying social services back while the house is up for sale. That's quite a yeah wide topic. So if you did need help with discussing kind of selling a home to pay for a home care, we can go into that. But yeah, the answer to that is not always, but yes, sometimes you do, depending on financial circumstances. Um, yeah, so if you or your loved one is privately funding, assure that you're aware of all means tested support available. Yes, we have just kind of had a chat about that. The attendance allowance, pension, age, disability, they're both non-means tested. Continuing healthcare is non-means tested, depending on if your loved one has nursing needs. So yeah, blue badge, etc. We just want to make sure that you're getting all the benefits that are non-means tested if you're a private funder. And number three, support your loved one with arranging lasting power of attorney sooner rather than later. Yeah, I advocate for this on every call. I ask every person if they've got power of attorney in place. It's so important if your loved one is kind of, quite sick, and they've lost capacity and you need to take over kind of their finances to pay for care and make medical decisions. If you don't have power of attorney and they're unable to make that decision for yourself, it's quite a lengthy process, and you may not always get kind of the wishes that you know that they would want. So yeah, get
Yeah.
that power of attorney in place for health and welfare and for finance and property.
Yeah, and I know how painful that process is, and my friend's currently going through it, but he didn't have power of attorney originally, so it is a really lengthy process, and it can just, it just takes a bit of time that you don't really need in your life probably at that time. So, yeah, definitely think about doing that and planning ahead is really useful. Thanks, Eva. Financing and thinking ahead. Now, We have a video here, but I'm pretty sure the sound's not going to work. I'll test it, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to work. Eva, you can tell me.
Yeah.
But
Hi, I'm Katie from Lottie, and I'm going to
What?
explain a few different
it
ways to
works.
fund care.
Hopefully, everyone can hear this.
Lottie, we recognise there is no one size fits approach to funding care. From attendance allowance to carers credit, there are lots of schemes out there to support you. But today, I wanted to introduce you to other methods of paying for care: immediate needs annuity, also known as care annuity, and deferred payment agreements. Immediate needs annuity is a type of insurance policy that will provide a regular income in exchange for an upfront lump sum investment. We recommend seeking advice from an FCA approved financial advisor if you are considering a care annuity. Immediate needs annuities are good if you immediately need the care and need regular income that can be used towards your care for the rest of your life. Immediate needs annuities are not so good if you don't have a large lump sum of money which you will likely need and you don't need care immediately and only temporarily. Deferred payment agreements are when you use the value of your home to pay for care home payments. The council will then reclaim the costs of care once your loved one has either sold their home or passed away. You can only access deferred payment agreements if without your property, your capital is below the £23,250 threshold. It means you won't have to sell your home in your lifetime to pay for care costs. If you have any other queries about funding care, please visit lottie.org or schedule a call with one of Lottie's care experts.
Hey, thanks, Katie. That's really nice. And like we've sort of been saying throughout, there's so many different ways to, yes, fund care once you're in it, but like thinking ahead and thinking about financing care, there's also a lot of avenues that are open to you at the time. So I think it's really good to just be proactive as much as possible. There is no wrong or right time, obviously, but anytime that you think about, I think about it a lot with my own parents, and I think like how on earth I'm going to finance care. And since doing this job, I'm now more in that world, as it were. So yeah, definitely think ahead. And any questions, we can point you in the right direction. We're partnered with lots of different financing benefits and schemes. So yeah, do get in touch if you want to learn more about that, because that is really useful avenue that we can point you towards. And how to plan for later life. I feel like this is something that Eva talked about just a few moments ago, but that power of attorney thing, part of your loved one's life is really important. But then also sorting out your will. Um, everyone has everyone on this call probably has a different sort of organization partnered with for will writing and things like that, but we do recommend to think about this in advance. It can save you a lot of heartache and a lot of time just thinking about it a bit prior, because you can talk about estate planning, life insurance, and of course bereavement as well. We do have like great signposting when it comes to bereavement. We've done webinars in the past on, bereavement and how to deal with losing a loved one. And yeah, because that can be a really difficult time. And all these things are all in the same category that elder care fits into. And that's why it's so important to think of it as, this big 360 sort of thing. And we can help with all of it. We might not be able to help directly, but Eva's team can definitely help point you in the right direction a lot of the time, which is great. And so yeah, definitely have a think about that as well. Um, it is very complicated. And, we sort of touched on it throughout this webinar on how difficult it can be, and like the pages and pages that you might have to fill out a form for like attendance allowance or PIP or whatever it might be. But we're here to support you through all that. Even if it's looking at the blue badge, I saw there was a question on, filling the form out for a blue badge and it being complicated. Totally agree, it is. You can always come to us and we can sort of guide you through that process, because we don't want anyone to be blocked by something that is filled with jargon or overly complicated. We want to guide them through the process easily, and so that you can use all these benefits and utilize them for your loved one, and they can live more happier independently. And we help with our amazing care expert team, as shown there. So you can say hello to them anytime and ask them a question. You can go through your Seniorcare portal, like I said, schedule in a call, that sort of thing. We're rated 4.9 on Trustpilot, which is pretty good, I think. And yeah, we've got a verified portfolio of homes and home care agencies. We don't just work with anyone. Care. We all know what the media can show sometimes, the poorer side of care. We will only work with high quality care providers, and we're partnered with over 6,000. So that's something to take heart in. And we've got loads of helpful resources. And, this is kind of just one of them, like talking about funding and financing. We've got documents that go like further into detail, but not just on this, but on living with dementia and different parts of elder care and that journey. So yeah, please do get in contact through your senior care portal. It doesn't matter what aspect it's in. It could be about funding care, like we've talked about today, but perhaps it's more about understanding a bit more and being a bit proactive on later living and planning ahead. But perhaps it's finding care itself, whether that's home care, care home, retirement living. I'm not sure. It all depends on your circumstance and your loved one's circumstance. But yeah, we have a great team, and we love doing what we do, and we love hosting webinars like this to try and give you a bit more information at the time because it's just such a big unknown. And yeah, I hope that's been really useful. Like I said, we have left a lot of time for questions because we anticipated quite a lot of questions in this webinar
Yeah,
about funding
I'm
care.
just I'm just going through some of them and answering them. Yeah, you answered. So I got, yeah, so they do take pension into consideration with savings. How do I get the info for claiming? So we've got lots of support that we can help you with. We've got guides, checklists, etc. with attendance allowance. It's a long form, it's 31 pages. So
One.
it's a crazy, crazy. But yeah, we've got guides and checklists. So if you need some help with that, we've mentioned the blue badge. Yep, we can support. Does dementia come under CHC, FNC? Again, I mentioned that before, only if it's kind of requires a nurse and is very advanced. What if someone does not have peripheral health, does the has dementia? How does so if the loved one does not have lasting power of attorney for wealth and finance and has dementia, how does the carer pay for the care home? Yeah, so this is where it gets tricky. If someone's lost capacity and doesn't have lasting power of attorney, you have to go through something called a deputyship and go through the court of protection, and they make the decision. Um, yeah,
How,
so
how long
always,
can that process take?
it can take a while. It can take a while. I've known it to take like 6 months at times. Um, so yeah.
I think that's why we always say that that's sort of the proactive side. But if you are in
Yeah.
that position, then definitely, get in contact
Yeah.
with us.
And a lot of care homes and social services will accept, a loved one coming into the home, and paying for the care. And then once they have access to the services, to your their finances, you'll pay them back. And sometimes they give up to 12 weeks for free as well. So in some circumstances, it's called a 12-week disregard. They give 12 weeks for free, week 13, 14, etc. You pay back.
Mm,
So yeah, they'd never just leave someone in a situation where they're unsafe or unhappy because they have dementia and don't have the
yeah.
means of getting to the savings and assets. It would just be a case of paying the local authority back. Um,
Great nugget there, Eva. That's really good. Love
so is there a useful timescale in terms of when to investigate funding when the situation is urgent and can be planned ahead? Um, I would always say the sooner the better. Um, I really, I help a lot of people in emergency situations, and it's quite distressing and it's very hard for the family to deal with when they don't know how care is going to be funded, when they're, balancing work and finding care and, understanding how to kind of fund that care. So, yeah, I would, if you've got any niggles of a loved one that you think, might need care in the future, it's worth kind of making sure you've got power of attorney, making sure that, you may be aware of if they can pay privately. I know they're sometimes hard questions to ask, but trying to access a financial assessment, etc. So we mentioned the NHS continuing healthcare and funded nursing care benefits is the former for home care. Continuing healthcare is for both care home and home care. Funded nursing care is only for care homes, just to make you aware of that. Kate asked, what are the rules for getting into a care home for someone with dementia? But if there is still a partner who needs to live in the home, are there different rules and do they take the home as an asset into account? So it's dependent on everyone's situation. Yeah, it depends if they don't want to, if they live with a partner and someone's living with dementia and needs to go in a care home and they don't own the property, they would never kick someone out of the property that they've been living in if they don't own the property, if that makes sense. They are there to support the individual going into care, but also their family. The best thing to do in that situation is to go through social services and access a financial assessment, or and at the same time, I mentioned and answered one of the questions above. We signpost to a elder care service. They're called elder care and they help with in-depth kind of financing. We have understanding of financial like trusts and joint accounts and things like that. We can give kind of a brief understanding, but we're not qualified in giving financial advice. So that's where social services or a financial advisor would come in. Is NHS funded nursing care means tested? No, it's not means tested. No, it's not means tested.
But you don't need a financial check for funded nursing care. It's all
No,
depending on that care
yeah,
need.
no. Sometimes people are paying privately
Yeah,
and accessing funded nursing care. Sometimes local authority are funding the care and NHS are also funding the care. So
yeah,
funded nursing care can be a combination of local authority and private funded care.
yeah.
Uh,
It depends on those care needs then, I
yeah, it
guess.
depends on the care needs. Yeah, absolutely. And John asked, what about putting a property into trust? Again, I just mentioned we can't give advice on kind of putting properties into trust. We can signpost you to financial advisors, and they would be best placed to.
Is that quite similar to a deferred payment agreement type thing? Is that the sort of, or is it?
Not really. Putting a property in trust is
Mm.
you say if I owned a property, I could give 40% to my sister and 40%, like, no, I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't really own hardly, I'd only own 20% of my property. I could give 20% to my sister and 20% to my mom. So they earn 40%, I earn 50%. And yeah, so that's how that works. There is kind of rules in place to eliminate people from just putting a house in trust and then accessing local authority funded support. So talking to financial advisors would be best.
Yeah.
Um, can I complete an attendance allowance form for my father? Yes, Sue, you can. Again, I mentioned above, it's long. We've got guides and checklists. We can help you. My mum is having a hip hop and may need some, is it? Yes, the anonymous attendee regarding her mum having a hip hop and may need some care afterwards. Yes, she may likely to get some reablement care. As I say, it's up to 6 weeks. They may only put 2 weeks in place. They may put 6. And yeah, usually she would be entitled to that, but you'd have to speak to the hospital and the discharge team involved in kind of her care plan, and they would let you know if they're going to put some care in at home or into a reablement kind of rehabilitation care home. Um, do you provide guidance in applying for CHC? Absolutely, yes, we do. We have got guides and checklists for all the benefits. We've got guides and checklists on how to apply for, yeah, what type of questions they're going to ask. So yes, we do. And I applied for attendance allowance for my husband who has dementia back in October. I've so far heard nothing. What can I do? I'm sorry about that. That is, yeah, you should have heard back by this point. That is quite long. We have a phone number that you can call. Um, I would call that phone number. I'll put it in the type answer and you can give them a call, whoever that is. It's anonymous attendee, and yeah, just nudge them. But again, they can take a little while, but they can backdate them up to 8 weeks. So if you hear next week, they can backdate that payment
Okay,
backwards.
that's quite good.
And we've got two more questions left. David Hopkins, on the £1,000 funding for home adaptations, can that be claimed twice? E.g., if a father has had a set of them and needs.
As in, like, can you claim it for a father and then a mother? Um,
Believe so. I believe
yeah,
so. I think, to be honest, it would be down to the social services when they come and do the home adaptations. So obviously they'd come round, assess, and again, it would be dependent on finances. So depends if they're living in separate houses, I guess. I mean, sometimes that can happen. And what is already implemented in the house. But social services would be the best people to ask about that. And what other differences are there between the NHS continuing healthcare and funded nursing care benefits? I, well, yeah, what I mentioned in terms of the fact that to be able to get continuing healthcare, you need to have ongoing and complex care needs. So yeah, someone needs to be quite sick, maybe end of life, or has been very sick with lots of needs for a really long time. And again, continuing healthcare's and funding nursing care are non-means tested. So you could be really poorly and have, a lot of assets and a lot of money, but you could still get your care fully funded by the NHS. I know some care homes and some home care providers go through the process of continuing healthcare in a nursing home setting for kind of all of their residents to make sure that they might get it on the off chance. A lot of them do get rejected, and then they would award the funding nursing care element.
so is it almost you would apply for continuing,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then
You would apply for
and
continuing healthcare, hoping that you get awarded that, and it does get awarded. I just obviously want to manage expectations that
yeah.
not every single person is going to get awarded continuing healthcare and get their care fully funded by the NHS, but they may get awarded the funded nursing care benefit, which is up to £350 a week, in a care home, to premise that as well. And yeah. Um, So
Um,
what happens if your loved one is below the 23,250 threshold, but the funding does not reach the cost of the care home? So yes, I mentioned that in the slides, a couple of slides.
yeah,
There's a top-up fee option if your loved one falls below that amount and they're funded, for example, £1,000 of care by the local authority, and you find a home that is more expensive, that would need to be funded by a third party top up.
So,
Um,
of course, that relies on someone if they can't
yes,
afford that local home with the
yeah,
local authority.
yeah,
That's where the personal savings comes into it, isn't it? And that's why a
yes.
lot of people end up spending a bit of extra on top-up fees, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And between 14,250 and 23,250, there is a tariff income. So for every kind of £250 per week. The person pays £1. Sorry, that's kind of confusing. Between 14,000. So even though you're below, you would still pay some form privately, and then local authority would fund, say, £1,000. Sometimes it's 750 a month, sometimes it's 1,500, depending on where you live in the country. And if you find a care home or kind of care provider that you like the look of better than what they're willing to fund, there's opportunity for local authority.
Yeah, there's different thresholds, isn't there? Essentially, it depends
Yes.
on how far below you sit.
Yeah.
That £23,250, or if Scotland, Wales, sorry, it's 50,000. There's different thresholds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so for CHC funding, continuing healthcare funding, they yeah, so a medical professional has to um do the initial screening and fill out the form really because it's through the NHS. The people that make the decisions are called the Integrated Care Board. They, yeah, make the decision basically. They're in charge, and it's either a GP, a nurse. They have to be trained in the decision-making tool that kind of determines whether someone is eligible or not.
yeah,
Um, yeah, let me just post the phone number for the
yeah.
lady
Yeah,
with
you do that, Eva.
that
I'll
one.
keep
Yeah.
chatting. But I just want to, yeah, I mean, we're nearly at time, and you can see just how much stuff we haven't quite covered because there is just a well of information when it comes to funding care and things like that. But I really hope that we have given some signal, some direction for those of you today within this hour. But what I would say to anyone else with an extra question, please log on to your senior care portal, schedule in a call because that's the best way to sort of meet the specifics of your needs and your loved ones' needs. Because, funding care is crazily complicated, and whether that's government benefits or even the NHS benefits as well. So, and we're willing to help out in all that spectrum. So, yeah, I just want to thank everyone so much for joining. I'm glad it's been so well attended and all the questions as well. It just shows that there is a real hunger and desire for people to understand this and use it and not just, yeah, and not just sort of bear with it. Um,
Sorry, can everyone see that? There's a chat box and I've put a webinar chat, the attendance allowance helpline. Can you
I
see that,
can
Robin?
everyone see that? I just
Can everyone see that?
no.
No, I'm just trying to find the lady that wrote the
It was
Oh, here
it
we
was
go.
I just
Anonymous.
found
Here
it.
we go. Yes. You should have now got that. Um, yeah, you should have now have got that, the anonymous attendee at 11:41. Um, there
I've
we
just I've just tried again to use the chat just to see if anyone can see that
go.
because I've just posted something to everyone. Attendance allowance helpline on 0800. Yes. Yes, and thank you. Brilliant. Okay, I'm glad that worked. Yeah, because that's, they can be painfully the inertia of government benefits is real. So if they haven't got back to you, please call that number, inundate them with questions. I'm glad everyone can see that. Thank you so much, and thanks Eva for finding that number. Um, and yeah, just to sort of follow on from what I was saying, I just want to thank everyone so much. It's been a pleasure to talk you through it today. Like I said, if you do have any other specific questions, please go to your senior care portal. You can ask your organisation how to access it and go through there, and you can chat with us that way. And there's lots of useful guides on there that you can sort of have a look at. But yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Anything you want to say at the end, Eva?
No, thanks everybody for listening, and I hope that was helpful. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into care funding, and yeah, it's different for everybody. So, um, yeah, thank you all for listening. And if you need anything, just yeah, go through your portal, book in a call, and we can help.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a lovely rest of your day, rest of your week, and yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.